This is the Brew World Order Podcast.
Welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Curtin. If you haven't subscribed yet, well, get on it, bucko. This is episode number 46, and we're getting old. In this episode, I sit down with Chris Frosaker, co-owner of Highwire Brewing Company in Asheville, North Carolina. Chris talks to me about how his team tries their hardest to think outside the box, how they found their head brewer, and how crafting their identity was one of the hardest parts of opening their business. I feel exactly the same way. When I started this podcast, I don't know what I was doing. 46 episodes later, and I don't know what I was doing. Time flies when you don't know what you're doing. But what you should be doing is enjoying the podcast. So, sit back, crack open a beer, and enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, I'm Mike Curtin. This is the Brew World Order Podcast, and today I'm with Chris Frosaker, co-owner of Highwire Brewing Company in Asheville, North Carolina. Chris Frosaker and Adam Charnack first met as college roommates, and after college, both went on to completely different career paths. Chris became a pharmacist at Walgreens in Asheville, and Adam became an affordable housing real estate developer. Around 2012, Chris was looking for a career change but wasn't sure what. He was out to dinner one night with some coworkers when they had mentioned that Craggy Brewing Company would be closing down. Chris's ears perked up, and he immediately thought of Adam, as they had always talked about starting their own business together. A couple weeks later, Adam's company went out of business, and he was all in on the idea. A business plan was written up, and the two got to work, and in the summer of 2013, Highwire Brewing Company was born. And Chris is here with me today. Chris, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
All right. So, Craggy Brewing Company closed on December 1st of 2012, and you had both opened in the summer of 2013. How quick of a turnaround was that for you? How quick did you guys have to work? And what was the biggest challenge you had to deal with when doing that?
The turnaround was super quick. Most breweries from first idea to opening day often take upwards of a year through permitting, build out, and ordering equipment and installing equipment and dialing in recipes. It's typically a pretty long process. We were fortunate enough that we took over a functional brewery. We really got to skip a lot of the longer processes, such as ordering equipment, because it was all in place. What we worked on, obviously, was hiring staff and recipe development, as well as kind of redoing the retail customer experience. So it was, in terms of opening a brewery, we did it in 6 months, which is almost unheard of. The biggest challenge for us was crafting our own identity, being in a space with a brewery that didn't make it. A lot of people at first kind of associated us with that brewery, which wasn't very popular. So it'd be hard to make our own unique brand and make sure our beer was top notch from day one to kind of separate ourselves. Gotcha.
Yeah. So how did you guys go about funding that first location?
It was a mixture of some life savings thrown in with Adam's background, really. Adam, when he was in the real estate world, worked all the time trying to obtain financing from banks. He's a Excel spreadsheet wizard, and really knows. He's a finance guy. So we had a leg up for obtaining money, and we kind of went a traditional bank financing route, which again is not super common for small startup breweries, but it worked for us. Adam, we had a solid business plan, and Adam knew his numbers, so we were able to open with a small SBA backed bank loan.
Right. So you guys weren't really brewers or anything like that. You kind of just you had a love of you liked brewing, home brewing, and you enjoyed craft beer. But
exactly, yeah. Neither Adam or I are brewers at all. In fact, I'd imagine we would both be pretty terrible brewers. He has a little bit too much attention to detail, and I'm a pretty impatient person. So I think those two qualities in craft beer, or at least making craft beer, would really work. But I think that's what has given us a leg up and how we've been able to aggressively grow. The owners and founders aren't worrying about the nitty gritty details of today's brew. We have an awesome production staff who we wholeheartedly trust and have our faith in, and they do their thing while we're able to go out and grow the business.
Gotcha. And how did you go about finding that head brewer position?
It's kind of funny. So he actually came from Craggy Brewing.
Really?
The brewer that went out of business.
Interesting.
We originally had a head brewer lined up, pretty popular brewer here in Asheville, and last minute, Oscar Blues had opened up their a new brewery here in Western North Carolina, which isn't so new anymore, but at the time, brand new. And he got offered the job to start that place up, and he just said he couldn't turn it down.
Right.
He said, hey, my buddy Luke actually worked for Craggy, and he wasn't even really a brewer. He was kind of a cellarman, but really talented guy. And got to talking to him, and he made us some beer, and it was the right fit. I mean, it was a gamble, kind of running with a guy that wasn't really proven, but he does an amazing job for us, and he's still our head brewer today.
Awesome. So, like you said, you never were really in the brew industry or anything like that. So what was something you never thought you were going to have to deal with when opening a brewery?
The biggest shock, when you're first starting out, is just how capital intensive this industry really is. From equipment to raw materials to packaging materials, bottles, cans, cardboard, takes a lot of money to run a brewery.
Right.
You always hear that when you're thinking about starting something like this, but until you experience it, it's first couple of years we're definitely a roller coaster, kind of getting off the ground and getting stable. Takes a lot of money to do this and do it right. So that was definitely the biggest shock. Yeah.
I always hear that one famous line. It's like, whatever you think it's going to cost, double it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and on top of that, raw material prices constantly increase.
Right.
Yeah, beer prices don't increase. Everyone expects that $9.99, $10.99 six-pack on the shelf. So we can't raise our prices, yet everyone else keeps raising their prices. So right. It's a continual struggle. Yeah,
for sure. Now you got to find that happy medium. So what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far from owning your breweries?
Not being afraid to take chances in life and in business. We have a set of we call it non-negotiables here in our company, but they're really core values that we ask all of our coworkers to live by every day. And I think the most important one to think with ingenuity, think outside the box. We do a lot of things that are different than your quote unquote typical brewery. We put out a ton of different types of beer. We have a pretty aggressive satellite tap room model. We tend to do things a little differently. And I think again that's kind of what gives us a little bit of a step ahead of some of our peers. Always think outside the box, and not every idea is going to work. But what's that saying? You can't make the shot if you don't shoot the ball, or something like that. That's
right. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
That's it. That's exactly it. And so that's kind of how we live around here.
Good. So you talk about your peers. Who do you think's inspired you the most in the beer industry?
Ooh, that's a good question. We really look up to brewers like Firestone Walker.
Okay.
Out in California. If you look at their model, they seemingly do everything, and they do it really well. They make one of the best lagers in the world, in my opinion, Pivo Pils.
Pivo Pils is great.
They make fantastic IPAs. They also have a robust wild and sour program and barrel aging program, which we do as well. So kind of looking at a brewer like that, where they're not really single style, and they can play around and seemingly do everything very well. That's a big inspiration for us.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big fan of their Double Jack.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorites. So, what qualities do you think you possess that make you a great business owner?
I think again, it's taking risks. All risks are calculated risks,
Right.
but I like doing things differently. The beer industry, the 3-tier system, which is great. Manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer. It's been this system since Prohibition,
Right.
and it works for seemingly works for everybody. But I feel like a lot of people kind of get in the same. I don't want to call it a rut, but they get in this way of thinking, and I think that's the only way of thinking and doing things. We like to think outside the box, think with ingenuity. We kind of approach different problems in different ways. It's constantly trying new things, constantly innovating, constantly having a new thing to talk about all the time. And I think the other thing is just trying to have fun. Beer is supposed to be fun. That's actually another one of our non-negotiables is create fun.
Okay.
And so we try to do that with our brand, our beers, and our retail experience. This is supposed to be a good time. So.
Right. Speaking of your brand, how did you guys come up with the name for your company?
It was a little kind of metaphorical at the time.
Okay.
I was leaving a pretty lucrative career. Adam was leaving the business world, and a big reason why we did it was kind of work-life balance, right? Wanted to do something we were actually passionate about, and that balance can relate to a tightrope walker, up on a high wire.
Right.
So that's really kind of how it started. And then from there, we just really liked the kind of the circus idea, the circus theme.
Okay.
Lighthearted, fun. Beer's supposed to be fun. Asheville, kind of a little bit of circus. So it's a fun, crazy town, and we kind of went from there. We really leaned on the circus thing first couple of years, and now we've kind of gotten away from the traditional circus imagery. But it still rings true, being balanced in beer and life and having a good time.
Right. In 2014, the North Carolina Brewers Cup and Best New North Carolina Brewery of 2013, you guys won the most awards, most medals. What do you think's been the proudest moment for your brewery so far?
I think it was actually our first Great American Beer Festival medal. We won that for our Oktoberfest gold medal. That was a super big deal for us. We definitely gave us the confidence that we always thought we were making good beer, but world-renowned judges agreed, and it really kind of put us on the map a little more than we were at the time.
Right.
Kind of kept giving us a little more confidence. So that was probably my most exciting moment. So
I know a lot of people might define that as success, but for you, how do you define success?
That's a tough question. Success, I think, is the easy answer is business profitability,
right?
But kind of the real success is making sure that is there. But also, in the last year, we've really started to focus more on our culture here at the brewery and making sure everybody feels like they're part of a family and feels comfortable and is happy, likes coming to work. So to me, it's success is kind of gone from, hey, just making sure we're making money, we're staying afloat, to making sure the culture in the brewery is correct. Because when the culture is right, the product's going to be better, and the profitability is going to come naturally.
Right. So I'm sure it also takes a lot. It's a lot on the mental to own it. I mean, you have six on the way right now, 6 tap room on the way. But how important is a mental break for you, and what does that look like?
I've never been good at taking mental breaks. So I'm kind of always thinking about the business, which I think, I think most business owners do. But for me, it's physically kind of getting out of the building a little bit. I try really hard to work just a standard 40-hour week. I don't come in on weekends, and I'm able to do that because my coworkers are phenomenal. There's a lot of trust there. I trust our managers and our leaders to do the right thing. They own what they do, and that enables me to be able to relax a little bit. So
right.
I think definitely the key is not being here all the time. So if I'm here all the time, I get sucked in.
Gotcha. So what do you think's been the biggest change in the last 5 years in the brewing industry?
Hard seltzer.
Hard seltzer, yeah.
Everywhere you go, there's seltzer, and everything you read about beer, they talk about seltzer. It's not very often that an innovation like that comes along. It's definitely created some challenges for regional breweries like us. A lot of chain grocery retailers have cut down their craft space and given it to seltzer because it's just on fire.
Right.
They did that this year,
especially in the summer,
with a lot of kind of unknown brands. So it's been an interesting chain grocery year for us. Kind of continuing to fight for that space, which just keeps getting harder and harder every day. But I kind of predict a lot of the smaller seltzer brands. So I think it'll kind of even out next year. So I think seltzer is kind of a big guys game. The Anheuser-Busch, the Millers, the Truly, White Claw. I think they're going to continue to dominate.
Right.
I think that's been the biggest change in the beer industry.
Gotcha. And what was your gateway beer into the craft beer world?
So I grew up, I'm from Chicago originally.
Okay.
College and grad school at the University of Iowa. So I was a Midwest guy. And the first craft beer I really got into was Boulevard Unfiltered Wheat. So it was Boulevard in Kansas City.
Yes.
Huge in Iowa at the time. That really kind of opened my eyes. And then I kind of transitioned to Sierra Pale Ale. Which still I think is one of the best beers on the market. And at the time, it's funny looking back. I used to think it was the most bitter, hoppy thing in the world when I was drinking it. Now it's just a balanced pale ale to me.
Right.
But yeah, I'd say Boulevard Unfiltered Wheat into Sierra Pale.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that have said Sierra Pale Ale was their first, and it kind of like blew them away.
Yep, exactly.
Like I had mentioned before, you have your 6th tap room on the way. You have Big Top, South Slope, Durham, Knoxville, Wilmington, and then now you have Louisville. That's going to be opening hopefully midsummer to the end of the summer, possibly. Do you guys have a timeline for that? And also, what does the future look like for your brewery?
We actually, in addition to Louisville, which is number 6, we're actually building number 7 at the same time as well.
Really?
Which is a big distribution center and beer garden here in Asheville.
Nice.
To support our brewery. But hoping for Louisville to open mid-July is the goal. Construction's going very, very, very smooth. Knock on wood at that location. And the distribution center beer garden, we're shooting for August on that one. So kind of a little more complicated project. I think the future for us, at least in the, I guess I'll call it the short term, the next couple of years, we distribute in 9 states right now, and we really don't see the need to open any new markets in the next couple of years. So
okay.
we really plan is to focus on where we're at and build sales from there. I mentioned chain grocery a little earlier in regards to hard seltzers. It's a big focus for us. If we start to develop ourselves more in grocery, we really should see a lot of growth in our current market. And as far as the taproom model goes, we're going to continue doing it. The goal is to open 1 or 2 a year, and so we're actively looking for that next spot right now.
Very cool. Best of luck to you with that. That sounds awesome, man. So if you had somebody come to you as I'm sure you do, and ask you for advice on opening their own place, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And what I say, and I think this always comes as a shock to some people, is I would not open a distributing brewery today. I think the distribution climate is getting harder and harder. The number of wholesalers keeps shrinking. They keep consolidating, yet the number of manufacturers keeps growing. So to me, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. It's really hard to build solid relationships with wholesalers and retailers and grow distribution in today's market. So kind of the established folks, I think are kind of ruling that game. So what I always say is, if you can sell every drop through your walls, your four walls, do that. Get a big, decently big space. I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of revenue they do through their tap rooms. And in order to do that, you need to get a lot of butts and seats.
Right.
So get a big, comfortable, open space. Don't go too big on your brew house, on your system, because then you're going to get the urge, I've got some extra beer. I might as well start selling to a few local bars and restaurants. It's hard to make money distributing when you're that small. It's just hard.
Gotcha.
And try to do as much work as an owner as humanly possible. Starting out with a secretary and a bunch of assistants and managers is hard. Payroll is always going to be your highest expense. And so you really got to grit it out those first couple of years. Try to keep your staff small and just try to create a really fun, welcoming place where your community wants to gather with a small, strong staff.
Gotcha. So did you happen to have a funny story for us?
I do. Got a lot of funny stories, but a lot of them aren't PC for the airwaves here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think the funniest one that I can think of. So we were approached in, I think it was 2014, to do a reality TV show pilot.
Really?
It was us and a few other Asheville-based breweries here. And we said, sure, why not? What's it going to hurt? So these guys came to town from LA and stayed for a few weeks, shot some scenes from each brewery to make a pilot to go pitch. And Adam, my business partner, can be a pretty high-strung guy sometimes. He had just bought, this is back when we weren't even taking a paycheck. Adam had just bought this Buick vehicle, and it was sitting outside the brewery. And one of our brewers, who still works for us today, had this funny idea that while Adam and I were getting interviewed for this reality TV show pilot, he would post this Buick for sale on Craigslist, put it up there for $300 with Adam's cell phone number on there, and said, "I want this thing gone now, $300. And if I don't answer, keep calling." Is what the thing said. So we're getting interviewed, and I knew this was happening, and all of a sudden Adam just starts twitching. His phone just keeps going nuts, going crazy. Gets done with the interview, and of course the cameras are still rolling. Adam answers the phone, and it's some guy from out in the country, and it's like, "I've heard your Buick's for sale. I want to come buy your Buick." And Adam, like, "What? What are you talking about?" And goes and finds the ad on Craigslist and kind of freaked out for a second. And the whole thing's on camera, and it's just a really, really funny moment.
Yeah,
so it was a early funny time. So it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of practical jokes played on each other inside the brewery.
Pretty constant.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like just like the firehouse. Guys like to bust each other's balls.
Yep, exactly.
So I have a little segment called Quick Fire 5 quick questions, beer related. Ready?
Yep.
One of your beers that you'd recommend someone try?
I recommend everyone when they first starting, if they have one Highwire beer to try, Highwire Lager. It's the first beer we ever made. We're lager nuts, and it's super crisp and just kind of shows you. I think it's a great example of our focus on quality.
Quality. Gotcha. Favorite brewery other than your own?
Sierra Nevada. They opened up an expansion brewery here in Western North Carolina, and they're just nothing but class, quality. Everything they do is top notch.
Gotcha. Favorite style of beer?
Pilsner.
Pilsner. Last beer that you drank that blew you away?
Ooh, good question. I would say, I never really, I appreciate kind of hard to get beers and everything, but I've never been a huge beer trader trying to find rare beers. And I know this was one that was, people were freaking out years ago, but I had never tried it. We had an employee party a few months ago, and someone brought a beer from Perennial in St. Louis called a Braxis. It's a big barrel-aged stout. That blew me away.
Gotcha. And you have one keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
Highwire Lager.
Highwire Lager. All right. That is, Chris, that's all I got for you, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast here with Chris Frosaker from Highwire Brewing Company in Asheville, North Carolina. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to my interview with Chris Frosaker, co-owner of Highwire Brewing Company in Asheville, North Carolina. Whether you're passing through, you live in the area, or just visiting a friend nearby, you should definitely check them out. Or check out one of their other 5 locations. Also, give them a follow on social media while you're at it. Every other Sunday I'll be releasing a new episode, so subscribe, and you'll never miss one. Also, be sure to check us out on social media for updates on the podcast. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast. You stay safe out there.